It's not an exaggeration to say the world of Warcraft is a sort of second home, a place where we can log in after work, on the weekend, or on a break from school and immerse ourselves in the timeless landscapes of Azeroth. I love making videos about the world and lore of this massive game, but today, I want to examine it from a different, more particular angle: classic WoW at nighttime. Exploring your surroundings in Azeroth after dark can affect the ambiance and feelings you get while questing or just traveling through the world, and I hope I can put into words some of those unique vibes that we all have probably experienced in our history with the game. It's also my pleasure to be featuring my fellow content creator Angelikatosh, who's here to provide her perspective on this topic. As always, thank you for the fun comments and support, and with all that being said, let's get right into it. I want to begin by talking a bit about WoW's day-night cycle and why it stands out in the classic MMO space. Most major MMOs from the late 90s and early 2000s overwhelmingly favored an accelerated model of time. As a few examples, a full day in EverQuest takes a little over 1 real-life hour, and Middle-earth, as seen in Lord of the Rings Online, takes about 3. The ratio of day to night varies, but the main point is that many of these games were, or are, able to cycle through days and nights quickly, allowing players to experience the full range of lighting and skybox effects no matter what time of day they logged in. Azeroth, though, is different. WoW has a 24-hour day-night cycle with about 16 hours of day and 8 hours of night, usually synced with the time zone the server is installed in. This means that, while there might be a few hours of leeway, most players will experience the game world during a time of day not so different from their own. This is a phenomenon we'll come back to later. In terms of gameplay, there's actually not much on Azeroth that happens once the sun sets, though the functionality for dynamic changes does exist in-game. The denizens of Pyrewood Village and Silverpine Forest transform from simple peasants into menacing worgen, and certain fishing nodes are only accessible at certain times of day, but other than that, there's not many nighttime specific events apart from the notable appearance of ghouls in Westfall, which I discussed in this video, and more frequent events like the Gurubashi Arena chest. Some private servers have capitalized on this feature to include nocturnal monsters and plenty of other scenarios, but in Classic, night remains much more of an ambient element rather than a gameplay detail. So, if not necessarily because of gameplay reasons, then why is WoW at night worth discussing? Well, perhaps because of its subtlety, the way it makes us behave and feel, rather than how it directly affects our stats or character. The sun slowly sets below the horizon, the sky darkens, and the Azerothian moon, known as the White Lady, takes her place as the dominant feature of the sky, surrounded by a veil of stars scattered throughout the great dark beyond. In Classic, if you're lucky, you may even glimpse the smaller moon, known as the Blue Child, which due to a graphical bug disappeared near the end of Vanilla all the way until Mists of Pandaria. A few zones like Teneris even have music tracks specifically designated as night music, toning things down and setting the stage for a more mysterious or isolated environment. But of course, the majority of the intrigue that is night is in the visual and the thematic, and I'd like to turn it over to Angelika to showcase some of these key ambient details.
To pick up from Jedi's point about the visuals, the night in classic Azeroth was so much more than just a darker sky. Through special lighting, the environment told a story. It told of the adventurers who traveled at night, looking to the lampposts along the roads that would work with the moon to light the darkened paths after the sun had set. Perhaps they carried torches or lanterns, which at night would create this sort of a light radius around your character that allowed you to further immerse yourself in the world. It gave even more life to the towns and the cities, where the windows would show light coming from the inside, and this happened in both accessible and non-accessible buildings, such as the houses that have no entrance for players in Stormwind. With this lighting, we now have a different perception of buildings that previously felt empty. It was as though the city truly came to life after dark. There's a specific comfort to observing life moving at its own pace in Azeroth, and it gave a sense of a much more populous world, beyond just the NPCs that we could physically see. On a bigger scale, it made our own deeds feel more impactful. Every quest we did, every bit of evil that we heroically suppressed, was all in the name of continuing to see the warm glow through the windows of the common citizens' homes at night. I was of a school age growing up with World of Warcraft, which meant that observing the world at night was a very rare thing for me. But the times that I did get lucky enough during holidays or special occasions where nobody knew that I was still at the computer are some of my most memorable instances of playing the game. There was a kind of serenity to Azeroth after most players had logged out for the night. It's just you and a few others, all of varying levels, sharing in the same peaceful quiet of a moonlit world. Everyone keeps busy in their own way, taking the chance to farm some nodes in popular spots, fishing, crafting. It was a very atypical experience because if you were in the process of leveling, you might find yourself more limited when it came to quests that required a group, as not enough people were around to help. It was a tranquil experience, almost like a meditation of some sort, where you could allow yourself to drift for a while in this darker and more peaceful version of a familiar world. I found that some zones weren't really all that different. Darkshore, Duskwood, Moonglade. Even in their name you hear of a darker and quieter place. But then there were other zones that were so different that it would almost take your breath away. Elwynn Forest and Westfall, or Durotar and the Barrens. By day they are bright, full of color. The heat from the sun appears to split the rocks beneath your feet. By night, all is calmer, colder, more serene. Wide open spaces under moonlit skies. The wildlife gets to roam more freely without the rush of players killing them for quests. The boat continues to quietly depart from the Ratchet docks despite the reduced foot traffic. The world doesn't stop or stand still when you log out, and I feel that it takes playing at night to really acknowledge that. This comforting thought that things continue to move and live in this world independently without our direct input, for me has always made Azeroth the perfect escape, even mentally when I needed a break from real life. Although I couldn't play at night that often, I found myself going to these places in my mind and picturing them exactly as they are after the sun sets. I carry this classic version of nighttime Azeroth with me everywhere I go.
The very first in-game screenshot I took of WoW nearly 12 years ago is titled Level 48 Menethil Dock. And yeah, I named all my screenshots as a kid. The defining feature? The moon perched just above the horizon of the Great Sea, bright and full and enigmatic. I had a pretty strict bedtime as a kid, and almost never got to stay up playing WoW late into the night. As you'll recall from earlier, this also meant I almost never got to see Azeroth at night because of the synced day-night cycle. But every once in a while, when I had friends over for a WoW party, or there was a holiday or something special going on, I got to stay up late and had the chance to experience this online space through a very different lens. Wandering the wilds now bathed in shadow, taking cool screenshots, seeing the moonlight emphasize landscapes in different ways. Even now it's incredibly nostalgic, but also kind of isolating and introspective. The daytime tumult of the game world and its player population fades away to reveal curiosities you might only truly appreciate at night, both in-game and in real life. Maybe you're the only one awake at this hour, the only adventurer in a zone finishing up a quest or two before heading back to camp. Maybe you're answering your door on Halloween night while running around collecting candy from some Hallow's End buckets. Whenever you find yourself under that big Azerothian moon, maybe you'll even run into another player during the late watches of the night. Someone on their own journey that you'll only ever get a brief glimpse of, their own trek through a second home that's always waiting for the next adventure. No matter how often you play WoW at night, whether your character is practically nocturnal, or maybe your real-life commitments get in the way of nighttime questing, I hope it's clear that there's a noticeable and important contrast from the regular daytime hours of the game. It's a special combination of visuals and our responses to them, and I think that deserves to be analyzed and appreciated as an overlooked part of the game. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you learned something new, or at least have some interesting details to think about, and I want to thank Angelika for joining me for this episode. She makes awesome videos about WoW, and plenty of other great games. A special thank you to my channel members who provide bonus support for these videos, and until next time, may the Force be with you.